Okay, so let me read this. Here we go. You have to imagine really like beautiful classical music being played underneath this. You have to add that later. Okay. Welcome to Hometown Hollywood Podcast, where you can find advice, inspiration, and strategies for success from talented people that are making a name for themselves inside the film industry, but outside of the major film cities. Here's your host, Travis Myers. Huh?
I got
It's got like an NPR vibe.
Hello, my name is Travis Myers, and this is the Hometown Hollywood Podcast. Today's guest is John Paul Summers, a director and cinematographer from Abbeville, Louisiana. I've had the pleasure of getting to know JP over the past year or two. He's a genuine, down-to-earth guy, and I consider him one of my mentors, whether he knows it or not. He's known for his work on a Paul McCartney music video, several other music videos, the best satellite college commercial ever created, the LSUE ad, his first feature Sunday Girl with director Peter Ambrosio, and short films like Today You, Tomorrow Me, directed by Chris Neal, and his own short film that he directed, When It Matters Most. In this interview, he tells about his experience making his first feature film, Sunday Girl, what it means to be an artist, and how to develop connections in the film industry. If you're wanting to get into the film industry or level up where you are in the film industry and need some inspiration, you're going to want to save this podcast so you can reference back to it. You can definitely tell that this is my first interview/podcast with some of these stupid things that I say. But if you skip past that and listen to JP and what he has to say, you're going to get some value out of this. So let's jump into the interview. JP, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you for having me.
So, JP the DP, or JP the director, or artist formerly known as JP the DP. Mm-hmm. How are you today?
I'm doing well, man. I am. Yeah, it's good. I'm just hanging out at home, spending a lot of time at home. During the quarantine, obviously.
Very good. It's a fun time being in quarantine.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's definitely it's been an experience for sure. some positives, some negatives. Learning more about yourself, all of that good stuff.
I just realized what I said was the worst possible thing you could say about the quarantine and this terrible pandemic that's going on, but I'm going to keep it in the show because why not?
Yeah.
So this is how I wanted to start. I remember now, I finally watched Sunday Girl.
Thank you, dude.
And I wanted to tell you about how I watched it. I loved it.
Thank you.
But so the other day I was DJing for my wife's little sister's birthday party. And when I mean DJ is I got a Spotify playlist and I plugged it into a speaker.
Yes.
But after I got home, it was kind of late and my house is kind of old. So every place there can be a door, there is a door, and a lot of them lock. So I got locked out of the hallway to go into the bedrooms, and my wife wasn't answering her phone. And it was like 12 o'clock at night. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to watch Sunday Girl. And I did. And it was a wonderful experience. And
thank you so much.
It gave me, because I just watched this movie for the first time ever. There's a bunch of movies that I haven't seen that I need to see. And one of them was American Graffiti. And I thought it gave me a lot of American Graffiti vibes because it's not your typical movie. But there's just the way it looks. It feels like just a hour and a half long painting, and the characters are they're very detailed, incredible. There's incredible actors, and I would just. It's a very intellectual humor kind of piece, and I was very into it.
Well, dude, thank you for. Thank you. That's so kind of you to say. I feel it was. I loved the movie. I loved working on the movie. It was a really special experience. Really proud of the work. And it was, it's my first proper feature film, narrative feature film. And it was, it's got a vibe, right? I like it. I think people should watch it. It's interesting. Like, I really love having a movie out in the world. That's been really fun. Like, to go on Rotten Tomatoes or Letterboxd or whatever and read strangers' reviews. Like people who hate it and people who are like it, and people who are like, it sucked but I love it. It's like, I don't know, it's cool, it's fun. It's like a dream come true in a sense to have like a little tile on Amazon Prime that people can, the idea that some stranger somewhere is watching something you made as a movie is pretty cool. It's
For
pretty
sure.
exciting.
For the people that did give it negative reviews, they're entitled to their opinion, but they're wrong. But I really enjoyed it.
I really love it. Yeah, it's a special little movie. I think if it's the kind of thing you're into, like if you're into like a lot of dialogue and like you're into, like you said, sort of like heady, intellectual, Shakespearean rom-com new wave thing, then I think you'll really like it.
Then you're going to fall in love, but
it was a lot of fun.
The main character will tell you not to. And
yes,
to tell you, I love the Bluebell at the end, especially being from the South. Every person had a tub of Bluebell. That was, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but that was one of my favorite parts. Could you talk about just a little bit about how that came to be with Peter Ambrosio? Is that how you say his last name?
Yes. So Peter Ambrosio is the writer and the director of Sunday Girl, and he's a good friend of mine. He and I became friends. So when I first got I started DPing in like 2015. In 2016, I was like, I really need to get out to LA, and I don't know why. That was just like the thought, I need to get out to LA and try and get on a set or something, because I didn't really know how much of this really worked. And I was learning everything about cinematography from like YouTube and podcast and all of that stuff.
Right.
And so I went out to LA. My cousin was in a rock band, Youngblood Hawk, which is they're actually a really cool band. And he's a guitarist in that band, and his girlfriend at the time was co-writing this pilot that they were shooting in his house. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I was like, I will come do anything for free for a plane ticket to go out, if y'all need anything. So they hired me to second AC. I didn't even know, honestly, what a second AC did. I hadn't been on sets that had second AC.
I still don't. So that's
a second AC. So the second AC the second AC is the one who charges all the batteries, does all the cards, but most importantly does the slate, and calls out the slate and all that stuff. So I was calling out the slate. I didn't know. I was asking everybody like, "Hey, how do I do this?"
Right.
But so Peter, who was, I sort of like really liked his directing approach. You know what I mean? Like, it was the first time I think I had seen somebody who like just was like super sure about what they wanted and like had a really clear vision. Like, just the way he interacted with the directing process. So I was like, I really want to work with this guy. And so at the time I had my video production company, Infinite Focus, and we were doing, local production work, and we had a trailer and a red camera, and I had told Peter, I said, hey dude, you should come make a movie with me in Lafayette, make a short film or something. So he sent me this short film, Sunday Girl, which was 40 pages, and I really loved it. And we were going to get some money together, I think something like $20,000 to try and do this short film. And it was 40 pages. And I was like, dude, just, do you think you could make it like 80 pages and we could just do a feature for $20,000? That's sort of like how Sunday Girl came to be. And then he did extend it to a feature. We ended up finding more funding, but we made the movie for what I consider to be a pretty low budget, and we shot it in 10 days straight.
Oh my gosh.
And it was, I don't know, it was a real sort of like, just, we decided we were going to make a movie and we went for it. and it was fun. It was great. And I really actually, I love, what it became. And held a dear place in my heart.
That's a pretty incredible story. How many pages a day is that to shoot?
So it turns out being right around 8 pages a day.
8 pages a day.
Which is a lot. I mean, I mean, we were clever in how we structured it. Like, it was basically boiled down to one location a day, most days.
Okay.
Where you could like show up, shoot everything at that location, and then move on. And we sort of we were able to do, I think we had 15 minutes of overtime in the whole schedule. Like we stuck to our 12-hour days, and with decent turnarounds, tried to keep it as humane as possible, I guess,
I think that might be the most impressive thing, is that 15 minutes of overtime with that kind of schedule.
Well, I don't know, man. I really don't I think it's already so taxing to do a movie no matter what, that I really don't like the thing where you do a 16-hour day with a 4-hour turnaround, and I feel that's borderline. It's unsafe and borderline abusive. I don't like that. That's one of the things about the industry that I definitely am I don't want to do that ever. Whatever that is. It's hard though, because we've had, I think on our last movie, we definitely did some 14-hour days. You know what I mean? We definitely did some turnarounds that were too short. It was definitely brutal in that way. I don't know. I would love to get to the point where it's you have some time to actually spend some time on the nuance of the thing. I feel like the movies I've done have been boom, get in and get everything you need as fast as you can, because you do not have enough time to do everything, kind of thing. So it's hopefully that is Sunday Girl was like that.
I'm really impressed by that, because I've DP'd just a couple short films, and they seem to all be like what you said, borderline unsafe and abusive with the 16-hour work days. So I think that may be one reason I appreciate it so much. Because you get 2 days of shooting and you feel like death.
Well, as a DP now, I don't do it. I'm not going to do a 16-hour day. Especially if it's a music video or some you know what I mean? Especially if we're not getting paid handsomely for it or something.
Right.
I remember I was on a music video and I was like, this is the last time in my life I'm ever doing this. I was because my AC was suffering, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's I don't want to be this guy's slave driver, you know what I mean? For this music video, that's not my idea of a good time. I don't know.
That's good to know that you're considerate with the other people on set as well, because I never heard that analogy before, but that seems so true.
Yeah. I don't like that, man. I want to do this. The fantasy for me is this French hours, 8-hour days. The Coen brothers do these 8-hour days, from what I've heard of. 5-day weeks, 8-hour days.
With a siesta in between?
Maybe. I'm into it. That's the fantasy.
Before your 8-hour days, let's go back a little further. So now we know that you've done a feature and you've done quite a few other projects. How did you get your start into the film production world? Did you always know that this is what you wanted to do? Did you find it by accident? Did you go to film school? Take us on that journey.
Well, I think I was like a lot of other kids our age that had a video camera and liked movies and would make little movies with my friends and stuff. And then I definitely in high school fantasized about going to film school in New York. That was sort of the dream.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I went to my local university and asked if they had film classes. They didn't. And so I took broadcasting, they said was the closest thing. I was at one school. I took a year to go to a local community college that had some more sort of film, proper film, editing, and you would actually make a short film or make a commercial or something. And I bought a DVX and a Mac Pro when I was at that community college, and started shooting wedding videos and football highlight videos for a local high school, and like would pick up gigs with my DVX 100A. And at the time, I didn't think of myself as like a filmmaker. I didn't think of myself even as like I thought of like I could make some enough money to pay off this equipment. Like it was like sort of like hobby plus kind of thing, you know? And then it became a way for me to sort of make some side money. Eventually, I was actually in ministry out of college. I was a youth minister at a local church. And then I grew up as a Catholic missionary, and was like super involved in the Catholic world, and then kind of wanted to get out of that world and get into doing some more video stuff. And I had a skill set for it. I was making money on the side doing that. And one of the guys that I had sort of had subcontracted me out to do this high school football highlight video offered to hire me on his video production company. They owned a local video production company, and I still actually work with this guy to this day. Like cool. He and I will, like if he'll bring me in to direct stuff or to shoot stuff or to help him with a project. But he was super generous, got me and gave me a video editing job. And that was in 2011, 2012. So Vimeo had like sort of started to blossom, and the 5D was out and the 7D was out, and the DSLR. And I, you know, had this thought like, man, I should just get a DSLR and go do it myself, you know, go start my own video production company. And because I didn't, even at this time, I still really had no clue how the sausage was made on like an actual film set or commercial set. Like I didn't know commercials had directors and cinematographers and producers and hired actors. And like, I didn't even like, I guess I sort of knew it in a loose sense, but I wasn't like, I remember thinking like, how are they making it look this good? Like, what is the difference between, you know what I mean? Like, why is this commercial so good? You know?
That's always been a driving force for me, is like, why the heck does my stuff suck in comparison to this other thing? I mean, they're shooting with cameras, right?
Right, exactly. And so you sort of like start to put the pieces together, and that started to happen for me in 2012. And I started Infinite Focus and started doing these corporate videos. And my first client, who actually is still a client of mine, just got off the phone with him before this interview, actually. I still do work for him. And my first client was like a corporate, like a sort of video for a startup, you know what I mean? To sort of like pitch them as a company.
Right.
And I got paid $4,500. At the time I just had my second son, Oliver, and was making something like $24,000 a year. You know what I mean? Sort of paying rent and trying to, you know,
survive.
Survive. Yeah. Which I still feel like I'm in survival mode, like even today, you know? But so when I did my first video, I remember I made $4,500 to do this video. And I was like, whoa, you know, huge, like it was 2 months worth of living expenses that I made in a week. And I was like, and I was so stoked to like, I had total creative control. You know what I mean? Like was coming up with all these ideas of how to make it cool. And like, I was doing all the After Effects motion graphics myself. And we were like doing this like green screen stuff and trying to make it look like Iron Man or some like super, like, you know, if I showed it to you now, it would not be very impressive. But at the time it was like very, very exciting. Like I remember when I got started, it was just like, man, I just want to make it good. Like I just want to make good, cool stuff, you know, like if like I just want to do the best that I can do, like be like, have just, I don't know, make it as good as you can. And so that was sort of the impetus of started getting other videos. And then I picked up a part-time job as a Catholic school teacher for a while, teaching high school student at this small Catholic school.
Very good. At least it's a related field.
Yeah. No, but and that was actually a really great experience. And then ended in an interesting way and sort of like went full freelance in 2014. And since then I've been full free, well, 2015, I guess. And that's sort of when I started, I think the last time I had like a job was that as a teacher. And when I quit there, I think it was like, I think that's when I realized that like I kind of had to just go for it. And when I decided to go for it, I had started listening to the Wandering DP podcast and was like, had sort of like thought like, man, I think I want to be a cinematographer. I think that's what I want to do. Cause I was a one man band video guy. And so I just started calling myself a DP. I did a music video with a friend of mine, Logan LeBlanc, who he shot the commercial that I just directed, my sort of directorial debut commercial.
Okay.
And I met him at community college. He's my oldest film friend, and he's a cinematographer and a director, and he's super, super talented, and a beautiful human being and hilarious. But so anyway, I did that music video and then sort of like, spent 2015 was the first time I got paid money to DP something. And then my DP career sort of gained a momentum that having a video production company locally never really did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The local video production company thing, I think I'm not actually very good of a business person, I think is one thing that I've learned about myself, which is unfortunate. And I hope that I could partner with people who can help me sort of learn more about the business side of life. But I think that I never, it just never like, what I thought would happen is I would make a bunch of really great local content and then people would call me to make their commercials locally. That's what I assumed would happen.
I think
you know
that's
what I mean?
A lot of people think. That's been in my mind for a while. Like, if I could just make my own production company, then I will have made it. And I think people I've talked to, that's kind of their thing. Like, if we make enough films, we could do our own production company. And that just seems like to be the end goal. But
well, the thing that happened was the first time that happened to me was as a cinematographer. Like the first time where it like my phone started ringing, let's say, or like people started reaching out to me for work because of the work was in cinematography, and I really developed like a passion for cinematography once I started DPing. And the more I learned about it, it became almost like a spiraling vortex of it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's very like intellectually stimulating, and there's like a ton of career challenges. And I think I just sort of like went for it hard as a DP because it felt like there was like a momentum and the universe was sort of like opening doors in that direction. And began really focusing on trying to shoot work that really turned me on,
Yeah.
And that eventually, that led me through the couple of features that I've done, a bunch of short films, tons of commercials. I feel really fortunate that the past couple of years, actually, like the first time I've had something like financial stability in my adult life, it's still like, I mean, right now we're in a global pandemic, so it's like spotty at best, but like,
for sure.
It's still tricky to figure out, but I feel really fortunate that it seems as though I've been able to develop something like a career as a cinematographer that's been incredibly rewarding and has led me to now want to pursue directing 100%,
So you were able to develop over just shooting stuff for a while. I know that connections, like you met Peter Ambrosio and you reached out to some other directors?
I mean, Christian Schultz has been a collaborator of mine, a friend of mine, Max Haben, Abe Felix, Chris Neal, Josh Swope, Orion Eschel, and Luther Clayton. They're two young directors that I collaborated with last year. I just collaborated with this guy. I mean, dude, as a DP, that's the amazing thing, is you get to meet so many directors,
Right.
people doing interesting work. I've been really, really fortunate to meet a lot of people who have. I feel like what you want as a creative person, or as an artist, or as a DP, or whatever it is you want somebody who's going to want you to give it everything you've got, and who's going to give you something worth giving it everything you've got. And finding work like that, where someone is in it for the right reasons and just wants it to be great, and it is allowing you to make it as great as you can together, that's addictive. Those are the kinds of people you want to try and work with if you can.
As someone who personally struggles with networking, like I guess I'm naturally kind of a shy person, and then I'll just force myself to go reach out to somebody. Are you the kind of person that has like an active approach to networking with these directors? Or you just, just from knowing you, I know you're a people person. Or do you think you're at a point where your work just speaks for you and you don't even have to seek out people? Or is it a combination of both?
I think the hope is that people reach out to you for the work. This is what I'll say about the networking. I feel like everybody has a different personality. Everybody has different things that are important to them. You're going to mesh with certain directors that I don't mesh with. Everybody is so different. You know what I mean? I don't think it's not realistic to like apply what works for someone else when they have a completely different story.
Right.
I think it's about, we're human beings, and people want to, if you go into the world and your world is to let's say shoot commercials or shoot corporate videos or shoot films, right? And you go into that environment and you're kind and you're generous but you're also very, very serious about the work that you're doing, and you're very protective of the work, and know what you want, and you try really hard. I think people have a positive reaction to that. And I think that makes its way into the work. And I think that there are like general principles at play in the universe. If you work hard for something, and I mean, obviously, like, we all have different opportunities, and I've been super blessed to have had some great opportunities in my life. But I do think it's something like, I was thinking today about, like wishing for the shortcut, like I still fantasize about getting the call tomorrow where it's like, oh, I've suddenly arrived and I don't have to worry about money anymore. And I can, and I'll finally get to direct a real movie, or I'll finally do this, and then I'll be happy, or I'll get to this level, or I'll get to that. Like there's never the more you reward yourself for a certain way of thinking, the more you're going to think that way. And part of the hustle and grind thing that can get to you is that if you make it about the networking, if you don't stop to smell the roses, let's say, I think what I'm getting at is that in my view, there being a secret to networking thing isn't really how it works, let's say,
Yeah.
It's I think going out into the world and managing to pull off a certain level of work, if you can gather, and I feel like if you can gather enough work that's at a certain level, like people who know how hard it is to make that kind of work are going to respect it and feel comfortable collaborating with you, Yeah. I think the networking thing is go get in the mix to the best of your ability. You know what I mean? Go on social media and be a part of the community, be involved, go to conferences, or go to, share filmmakers that you like, share their work, or follow them and be one of the people in the mix, and also make good work. And I think that that would be my advice, is that if you can simplify it to that, because dude, making good work, especially if you're in this hometown Hollywood thing where you oftentimes don't have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And you're competing with people who are making, films that cost 10 times as much. And not that you're competing with them necessarily, but like you want to earn your way into that. I still all the time feel like I'm just waiting for someone to give me my shot in, you know what I mean? To let me in the door to go, play with the big kids,
That's interesting.
I still feel that way in a sense, and I think there's people that feel that way about where I am and the work that I do now,
Raise his hands in the back of the class.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, if you're lucky enough, if you're fortunate enough and you are gracious enough and grateful enough, that your chances are that you're probably going to be doing this for decades, and that what can you do to enjoy the process and make quality work while you're figuring out the, 11 trillion other impossible tasks of trying to manage a career in the film industry in the year 2020,
Yeah. I think that's really good advice. Instead of just constantly trying to invite yourself in the community that you want to be in, just be a part of the community and do really good stuff. And that seems to make a lot of sense.
You can sit around all day and ponder why people aren't reaching out to you, but what you really need to focus on is, what does your portfolio look like? You know what I mean? Which is like, if that's what you're in it for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, like, I didn't even really like count the cost of what a cinematographer's lifestyle would do to my family. You know what I mean? And now I'm having to sort of configure this life where I have enough time for my family, but also I'm able to make all the sacrifices and pushes that I need to in my career. It's complex.
You said at one point that you were contemplating moving to LA because that seemed like the thing to do. What is your why for being in Lafayette and making things happen there?
Well, I mean, so my wife and I are both natives of Abbeville, Louisiana, where we still live. And we have 4 kids, and we live next door to my in-laws, and my wife has a built-in support system, and it's home, you know what I mean? It's definitely my kids' home. I moved around a lot as a kid because we were missionaries, but this is where we settled.
23 countries or
when
something
we came
like that?
back. Yeah, well, I visited 23 countries, but I'd lived only in Mexico and Micronesia as a kid, and then we settled back in Abbeville when I was 9 years old, and sort of have been a member, like been living in this community ever since, And so this is sort of where I'm from, This is where my family's from, and it's not exactly I feel fortunate enough that movies had sort of touched it enough to like open a pathway for me to get into the industry. But for a long time, for me, I think it became really clear to me a couple years ago that like, oh, I have to get to LA. And then that sort of like built up, and it's not really like a practical thing for my family to do right now. And so I've had to sort of like, I think I've just had to make it work while living in a what I call like a non-market for filmmaking.
Right.
Where like I basically have to try and create opportunities for myself locally to do the kind of work that I want to do. There's no like organic demand for high-end commercial work where I live. You know what I mean? Nobody's asking for that around here. I've been able to sell it to some people, but it's certainly not like a market demand that's driving my portfolio in Lafayette, Yeah. And then I think the real sort of heat on the real sort of momentum that gathered for me was on social media and traveling to do cinematography work and networking with people all over the country, and that sort of taking off. But now I'm sort of trying to right now I'm trying to fit together this whole sort of, I don't know, it's hard for me to have a vision of what the future of my career and my life is like. I think it could go in so many different ways. I think that over the next few years, my focus is going to be trying to make indie films in South Louisiana where I live, and trying to be able to find at least some balance between having a family and having a career, and being able to integrate the two of those things as best I can, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a monumental but awesome task. When I went to the workshop that you had for a Southern Screen, we had a lighting workshop. A lot of the time you spent basically just inspiring everyone there that, hey, we can do this here. When I left your 6-hour workshop, I was just pumped, and I called all of my film friends. I'm like, we can do this.
Yes. We can do it, man. It's real.
Could you talk a little bit about that? I feel like there's some kind of power in bringing something that's not really there. Like, I think there's pride in that as well, to start your own hometown Hollywood.
I think what I've settled on is definitely trying to foster a community of filmmakers in Lafayette area, Acadiana, as much as possible. I definitely want to make some movies with my friends locally, and I want to be a part of the filmmaking community. I try and help out other filmmakers locally as much as I can, and I also I want people. I think the real challenge that's sort of beyond my pay grade, that the universe is going to have to sort of solve these problems for me, is that there needs to be enough work to maintain a career for a number of people. You know what I mean? It's an infrastructural thing to get to a certain, in order to make a certain level of thing with gaffers and grips and hair and makeup artists. And in Lafayette, we really do have the people now. I have enough people to go make a proper indie film using all local people, and they're all very talented and beautiful, wonderful people. And what I think is happening is I think there are other directors we have some really amazing artists in Lafayette who are making things, and I do feel like we're, generally speaking, the world, Hollywood is being decentralized, and the major cities are being I think we actually are on this new wave of film where the demand for content is skyrocketing, and also the ability, so many more people know how to shoot movies now, so many more people know how to act, so many, the knowledge has sort of been made free and available to everyone, and that we're in sort of the midst of this artistic explosion where you have every right to make stuff as good as you want to make it, and that you can do that in Abbeville, Louisiana, if you want to, or you can do that in, where are you in? Texas, Beaumont, Texas, wherever you are. You actually can. Nobody's stopping you from making a good movie in Beaumont in the year 2020. If you can figure it out, if you can work on the craft, that's the hard part, The craft is the hard part. That's why I think everyone needs to be obsessed about the craft. I mean, I think you have to at least obsessed enough to where you doing things at the level that you want to be doing them, I guess. And not only that, people are doing it. It's not theoretically possible. People are doing it, man. People all over. Some dude in Arkansas just bought a red on the internet and made a movie with his friends. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if the movie's ever going to make it anywhere, but he's doing it. You know what I mean? People are out there, and then some of these people are freaks. Some of these people are talented. Some of these people are going to make incredible, we're the best movies to be made haven't even been made yet. Movies are brand new. So it's I don't know. I think it's an exciting time to be a filmmaker. And I don't think that you have to live in Hollywood. I think that you need to make good work. And if you can make good work, then you can make good work anywhere. That's what I like about it, is basically, if you can show the goods, and I still, dude, I have such a long way to go in my work, that's the thing, is that I really feel like I have um, I'm just, I want to keep logging hours. I feel like I have so much to learn and so much to figure out, so many things I haven't even experienced yet, Um, I feel like this career has this like sort of, it's like infinitely deep. You can't max out being a cinematographer. You can't
Yeah.
have done all of the things that can be done in cinematography. It's not possible. Same thing with directing, or same thing with any of this. It's such a fortune to be able to do this career at all. And
For sure.
and yeah, and the fact that I think you have people who are just willing to sort of like wiggle their way in from wherever they are, and try and do it. I think it's great. I think it's sort of like, that's like, like I'm very much a product of like, what if I just got a 5D and started making stuff, you know what I mean? And then that evolves and grows,
Yeah. The image of just being a wiggler and wiggle your way in. For some reason,
just keep wiggling, keep going until, eventually somebody's gonna, I mean, and the thing is, I feel very blessed. Like at this point, I think I've had a realization that it's kind of mine to mess up at this point, I mean, I almost certainly, I could definitely fail at what I'm doing. That would not be a surprise to me. But I think that chances are, if I don't fail, then I'll be able to keep doing this for a while, and that's exciting.
One thing I've heard you say, and it goes along with some things that you talked about earlier, is that I don't remember where you had said it, but one day you just decided that you were an artist, and I love that thought. Like, at what point can you call yourself an artist? And I realized that after watching your workshop, when you were like, okay, what do we see in this scene when we were setting up an interview, or what could have potentially been like a dialogue scene in the movie? Like, what do we see here that we like? I really like how that light is just in the back, and you look for the beauty in what was just there. And then as reading some of like your behind the scenes of, I think, Sunday Girl and Today You, Tomorrow Me, of Chris Neal, I really loved that one. And then I heard that you really think deeply into things that people may not even notice at the beginning. Like, we're going to shoot with wider lenses at the beginning and then go tighter and tighter and tighter. Like, I had to rewatch it to see it. That's one thing I really admire about the work that you do, is you think about the art in it. And when I watched the film that you directed, the When It Matters Most.
When It Matters Most. Yeah.
I had never come close to crying at a law firm commercial. And then I immediately showed it to my wife, like, you have to see this. And of course, she sent like a bunch of those crying emojis back. Like, why did you send me this? I loved it, but now I'm thinking about our kids. I think that, because I know that you're transitioning from being a DP to directing, do you think that being a DP and looking for the art there helped you as a director in this film or future films? Or how would you describe that transition?
First off, on the artist thing, I think just for a long time, for whatever reason, I didn't feel comfortable thinking of myself as an artist. I think I just was still figuring so much out that I didn't feel like I was actually being very expressive. I felt like I was learning how to copy other people's lighting setups, basically. And then I think I got to a point where I started to be a little more expressive in the work that I was doing. And I think I also just let go of whatever fear I had around calling myself an artist for whatever reason, sounding pretentious or whatever. Or people being like, oh yeah, he's an artist, but he just makes stupid shit. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I think as I think an artist, thinking of myself as an artist is something that I've grown into and something that's actually been incredibly liberating. Because I feel like I have permission to do absolutely anything. You know, I can paint if I want to. I can make music if I want to. I can have any idea that I want to, and I can. I have the freedom of saying I'm an artist. I can do whatever I want, you know? And also, to be honest, that's the thing. I think I realized that that's actually what I want out of this career is I want to make beautiful work, you know? I want to make, to me, the sort of nut at the center of the thing is to put my feelings into my work, you know? And to make stuff that I get excited by, emotionally, that I care about. And I think with that, what matters most is, you know, I've been wanting to make something about how much a dad loves his kids, and the way that love is sort of this, it's its own kind of thing. And that idea had been stewing as a long time. And I've always just tried to find a director that could, you know, maybe hey, let's do this style thing, and find a director that did that kind of thing and basically act as the agency DP sort of weird thing. And I think when I finally settled into directing this piece, it was just felt very much like, oh, this is what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
Is direct. I've been wanting to do this. I think I've been not doing it because I didn't think I would be very good at it. And I think actually doing it and sort of like just saying, no, I'm a director, I'm going to direct this and get a DP. And it was very, very rewarding and very, very, and it really was me actually putting my real feelings into the project. You know what I mean? Like, it really was an emotional experience for me. And the girl in the commercial is my daughter, and the other girl is my niece. And,
Okay.
and it was like a really personal, film for me. Like, and I basically was, the client had given me a budget to do whatever I wanted. So I did whatever I wanted, you know? And that's sort of what I sold them on, was like, let me go do, you know, we're going to make a film about how much this, you know, this dad loves his daughter for a personal injury attorney. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense. I think it actually does work. I think that they're actually going to get clients from it. I think I think their social engagement went up by something like 600% or something like that after the campaign.
That sounds
effective. You know, because most lawyers, most personal injury attorneys around the country aren't making engaging content. So if you suddenly have content that's engaging, I think people are going to engage with it. I think I'm definitely on a journey and figuring all this stuff out, but I enjoy most being an artist. That's the thing that I enjoy most, and that's where I want to put my energy. And I like it if you identify yourself as an artist, you know, which as kids, I think kids are very, very quick to identify themselves as artists, you know.
Yeah.
And then we sort of like people talk us out of it as we age.
Can't make money as an artist.
Right. Although I had very encouraging parents, and I've never really, you know, my parents were never really like, I asked my dad was a lawyer turned missionary. And I was thinking about becoming a lawyer, and he was like, no, don't do it, man. You're gonna hate it. So they were good in that sense. You know what I mean? I've always sort of been one to, I guess, march to the beat of my own drum, or, you know, sort of like shoot for the stars. Has sort of been my, I'm a big dreamer, big talker, always have some idea. And so I think for me, like, being able to focus my personality into the job of directing and to identify myself as an artist or as a DP, but really directing, I think, like, even on that, just doing that one job as a director, it was like the most like a square peg in a square hole that I've felt at work in my life, you know. Right. It felt very, very right, and I want to do it a lot more.
One thing I read in a book is that Um, the most fulfilling things in life aren't usually something that you can, well, it's usually something you can't plan at the beginning. Like someone who
Yeah.
does programming may find something like very niche in their field that they love, but they didn't know they loved before. But you can't really do that until you spend hours like being on the cutting edge of what you're doing to find your spot.
No, dude, I mean, I feel like I could have there was a spot there in my 20s where it's like I thought maybe I would sell insurance, maybe I would become a realtor, maybe I would become a lawyer, maybe I would go back to college and become some sort of nurse. I was the idea that I ended up actually to the point where now I'm, making a go at being a film director, making a living as a cinematographer, let's say, is a welcome surprise for me. I feel very, very grateful that I ended up here of all the places,
Yeah.
And I really love the work that I do. That's not a lot of people get that in life, and
For sure.
very grateful that I've had a good chunk of that now.
I guess final question, because I don't want to take all of your time. I know that you got 4 kids at home, but what are some final words of advice you would give to someone wanting to do what you do from home, or maybe just DP, direct, whatever, something in the film industry? Or would you recommend them moving to one of the big cities, moving to LA, taking the jump?
I think the real answer is, well, I mean, I think in terms of like, one is just have patience and know that like, if you're using a camera and you're making videos and you want to be a filmmaker, you're like, and you're doing it at all, then the hardest part is getting to the point where you sort of pull the trigger on doing it at all. I would say that life's too short to not go for it if it's something you're serious about. I think that's the thing, is that a lot of us would love the idea of being a successful cinematographer or being a successful film director or being whatever. There's a lot of really great ideas out there. There's a difference between the idea and then figuring out how to actually go pull it off. And so I would say, are you serious enough about it to really go for it and to really push yourself and to really challenge yourself, and to, I think, having really healthy goals. Like, I need to make 2 things this year that I think are really good, that are like really exemplary of the kind of work that I want to be doing. And I don't think that no one will ever hire you for work that you haven't done. That's not how it works. Do you know what I'm saying? If I'm looking to
statement.
hire someone who's a great cinematographer, I go find someone who already is a great cinematographer. I don't go find someone who has the potential to be a great cinematographer if they only had the opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's you're responsible for recognizing your own potential and then facilitating your growth in whatever way you can. And what I would recommend is that even on the corporate stuff, that instead of complaining about it, spend the time and make a really nice book light. Spend the time and make a really nice shot. Spend the time and like really, if there's not someone on set who's actively convincing you to make it look bad, then do everything you can to make it look as good as you can, because that's what a cinematographer does, So I would say take every opportunity, every time that you have a camera out, try and make it look as nice as you can. Don't give up on yourself so easy.
You get an extra 5 seconds in your reel, then go for it.
Yeah. And then you do that for 4 years, you just are always, and then every once in a while you go for broke on something and you do a short film at a cut rate and you sling whatever deal you can and you go make some stuff for your reel, do some music videos for free, do what you got to do. You're going to have to figure that part out for yourself based on the opportunities that you have. But I would say that the work itself that's between you and the universe. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The how you engage with the work. Okay, I'm going to be shooting this interview anyway. I'm going to this corporate warehouse for a piping company that I'm never going to show anyone. And I can just begrudgingly take the camera out and get it over with. And like, oh my God, I wish I was doing something cool right now.
Or hypothetically a meatpacking industry or something.
Yes. Or you can say like, man, what's a cool shot in here? Oh, what? Like you're going to spend the day anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Spend the day making some movie magic. You got the camera with you. You got a sound guy with you. Maybe you got some lights. Maybe you got some, there's a 16-year-old version of yourself that would have themselves to be able to be running around with this equipment. You know what I mean? Try and be in touch with that version of yourself and try and get excited about the work. You know, that's because I really do believe that if you can do that, then, and you can manage to also scrounge together a living, then that's sort of like, you kind of got it mostly figured out at that point. You know, everything else is just lagniappe, as we say. And then also I do think it's important to caveat with, I really don't have it at all figured out. You know what I mean? Like I'm still taking it day by day. I have no idea what how this really works. I think we're all just figuring it out, you know?
Well, I love it. I think that was inspired. I think you're just an inspiring person in general. So if someone wanted to follow you and keep up with what you're doing, how would you recommend them do that?
So hit me up on Instagram at JP the Director, vimeo.com/JP Summers. And if you want to check out my DP work, you can still go to jpthedp.com and help feed my 4 children. And then I will say this, if I've inspired you to the point where someone's, you know, if you're listening and you're like, man, I really need to get this guy to come direct something, I'm really looking for directing opportunities right now. So I'm going to put that out there.
JP, I want to thank you for your time and your infinite wisdom. I will say, like you had said earlier, if there are producers out there who want to make a film in Abbeville, Louisiana, there are people to do it. And you should hit them up on that. You should watch Sunday Girl and say, wow, they did that there. And then think, oh, yeah, they've had a year or two to even get better and progress. So you can do great things at home. And JP is proof of it. And this is one reason why I wanted to have him on the show so quickly. It'd be my first guest because he's making it happen. So thank you so much for being part of the show. And
thank you, Travis.
We'll keep in touch.
Cue music.
And that's it. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please write a review and show some love. That'll really help this podcast grow so I can keep doing it. I hope this helps you do great work, be the artist you want to be, and help you not be afraid to jump in with both feet and make things happen in your film community. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share and spread the word with your film friends. Leave a comment on ways that I can improve as a host, because I know I'm not perfect, not even close. What you liked about the show or questions you would like answered from future guests, because we've got a couple exciting guests already lined up. Stay tuned for our next awesome guest on the Hometown Hollywood podcast.
But if you can get, it's Alexandra Streliski. I'm onto that right now. That's sort of, someone put in their Instagram story, and it's like contemporary classical music that's really, really good. The whole album, Inscape, INSCAPE, is really beautiful. That's sort of been my like driving music, I guess. Like if you're taking a bath and you're sad and you put that song on, over, bro.